Assalamualaikum to our respected lecturer and fellow friends. Today, I am Nur Jihan binti Mama Aris, representing Group 4, and I will be opening our presentation for our PAD 104 course on a very crucial topic, the Malaysia National Education Policy. In this video presentation, my group members are Nordiana, Nur Atifah Safa, Muhammad Afiq Qayyum, Nurul Aisyah, and myself. We will be breaking down how this policy operates. Moving on to slide 2, let's look at the foundation of the Malaysian National Education Policy. Education is the ultimate cornerstone of national development and human capital formation. Currently, our education landscape is heavily guided by the Malaysia Education Blueprint 2013 to 2025, which was carefully developed through high-level international collaboration between our Ministry of Education, UNESCO, the World Bank, and the OECD. This blueprint focuses on 5 key aspirations: access, quality, equity, unity, and efficiency. To keep up with modern trends, the government also introduced the National Digital Education Policy in 2023 to promote digital literacy and AI integration. Because it is so critical, education consistently receives the largest share of Malaysian national budget, with 58.7 billion allocated in 2024 and an even larger combined allocation of 82.1 billion for 2025. However, despite this massive funding, major challenges like the urban-rural digital divide and declining student performance still remain. On slide 3, we will identify the major issues currently surrounding our education policy. While the government spends billions, we cannot ignore the challenge. First, we are experiencing a decline in student performance, heavily reflected in our lower score for mathematics, reading, and science in the PISA 2022 assessment, which was made worse by learning loss during COVID-19 school closure. Second, there is a persistent urban-rural education gap, where rural schools often lack proper infrastructure and ICT facilities, leaving B40 students with limited access to digital devices and stable internet. Third, we face teacher development challenges, including insufficient funding for continuous training and low digital competency among rural teachers. Lastly, graduate employability issues remain high due to a skill mismatch between our education system and actual labor market needs, especially now when the industry heavily demands skills in AI, cybersecurity, and data analytics. Now, let's break down the financial implication in slide 4 through a cost analysis, which is divided into direct and indirect costs. Looking at the direct costs, the government bear a massive financial commitment. As I highlighted earlier, we see huge public spending, including 58.7 billion in 2034 and a combined 82.1 billion allocated to Ministry of Education and Ministry of Higher Education in 2035. This money is directly channeled into upgrading school infrastructure, improving rural internet connectivity, providing scholarship, and funding research. However, we must also evaluate the indirect costs. When student academic performance declines despite high public spending, it indicates an inefficient use of educational resources. Furthermore, high graduate unemployment reduces the overall economic return on this public investment, while persistent digital inequality creates long-term socio-economic gaps that slow down our nation's progress. Finally, for my last section on slide 5, let's look at the positive side through the benefits analysis. Despite the cost, this policy delivers massive life-changing returns. First, it has significantly improved access to education, giving Malaysia a 99.11% primary school enrollment rate and a high 94.64% adult literacy rate. Second, our policy champions inclusive education by funding special literacy and numeracy programs, supporting over 101,000 special needs students, which directly align with the UN Sustainable Development Goal 4. Third, the digital transformation via the 2023 policy is expanding internet access and bringing modern tools like AI, massive open online courses, and blend learning into our classroom. Lastly, it ensures better graduate recognized through upskilling programs and industry collaboration. This concludes my part of the presentation, and I will now hand over to my next group member to explain the policy objectives. Thank you.
Main objective of the Malaysian National Education Policy. First, holistic development. Develop student intellectual, spiritual, emotional and physically. Equal access to education. Ensure quality education opportunity for all citizens regardless of background. Skilled workforce development. Produce knowledgeable, competent and adaptable workers for national development. Moral value and disciplines. Instead ethnic, responsibility, integrity and good character. Quality education improvement, continuous enhanced curriculum, teaching method, technology integration and learning outcome. Lifelong learning. Encourage continue learning and self-improvement throughout life. National unity and patriotism. Strength social cohesion, national.
Good afternoon and very good day to our lecturer, Sir Mujibu bin Abdul Muiz and everyone present. I am Nordiana binti Muhammad Yunus. For my part of this presentation, I will be discussing the actors involved in the National Education Policy and the implementation strategies adopted by the Ministry of Education Malaysia. To begin with, policy actors can be divided into two main groups, namely official actors and unofficial actors. Firstly, official actors are individuals or institutions that have legal authority to formulate and implement government policies. In Malaysia, the executive branch plays the most important role in determining the direction of the national education policy. The Yang di-Pertuan Agong grants royal assent to education laws, while the Prime Minister and Cabinet determine and approve education-related policies. At the ministerial level, the Minister of Education, Fadhina Siddiq, leads and oversees national education policies to ensure that the education system remains relevant to the country's need and current development. She is assisted by the Deputy Minister of Education, Wong Kah Wong, who helps strengthen policy implementation through program management and monitoring. In addition, civil servants and the Ministry of Education Malaysia or KPM play an equally important role. They are responsible for curriculum development, budget allocation, program implementation and policy monitoring to ensure that the education system functions effectively. Besides official actors, unofficial actors also significantly influence education policies. These include political parties, NGOs, the mass media, parents, teachers, students and the private sector. Although they do not have direct authority to make policies, they contribute through public feedback, opinions and collaboration with the government. Their involvement helps ensure the educational policies address real issues faced by society. Now let's look at how this policy is implemented by the Ministry of Education Malaysia. One of the main strategies is curriculum reform through the implementation of KSSR and KSSM, which emphasize higher order thinking skill, creativity, communication, and technology integration. The government has also strengthened digital education by expanding the use of online learning platforms and digital technologies in school. Furthermore, teachers are continuously provided with the professional training, and educational facilities are upgraded to create more conducive learning environment. At the same time, TVET and STEM programs have been expanded to produce skilled and adaptable graduates who can meet the demands of the Industrial Revolution 4.0 and the future labor market. Besides official actors, unofficial actors also significantly influence education policies. These include political parties, NGOs, the mass media, parents, teachers, students, and the private sector. Although they do not have direct authority to make policies, they contribute through public feedback, opinions, and collaboration with the government. Their involvement helps ensure the educational policies address real issues faced by society. Now let's look at how this policy is implemented by the Ministry of Education Malaysia. One of the main strategies is curriculum reform through the implementation of KSSR and KSSM, which emphasize higher order thinking skill, creativity, communication, and technology integration. The government has also strengthened digital education by expanding the use of online learning platforms and digital technologies in school. Furthermore, teachers are continuously provided with the professional training, and educational facilities are upgraded to create more conducive learning environment. At the same time, TVET and STEM programs have been expanded to produce skilled and adaptable graduates who can meet the demands of the Industrial Revolution 4.0 and the future labor market. Finally, the successful implementation of the national education policies requires continuous cooperation among the Ministry of Education, schools, parents, industry, and other stakeholders. Through this collective effort, Malaysia can develop an education system that is inclusive, effective, and globally competitive. Thank you.
A very good day to semua cipu. I'm Muhammad Afiq Koyum bin Sabri. I will present my part, which is evaluation of the effectiveness of the National Educational Policy SWOT analysis. Before analyzing the policy, I would like to pose a critical questions. Despite receiving one of the largest allocation in the national budget every year, has Malaysian National Education Policy truly achieved its intended objective? To answer these questions, we will examine the policy from four dimensions, which is strengths, weaknesses, opportunity, and threats. So, firstly, one of the greatest strengths of Malaysian National Education Policy is success in expanding access to education. Malaysia has achieved a primary school enrollment rate of over 99%, which reflect the government's strong commitment towards educational inclusivity and social equity. From a public perspective, this achievement demonstrates the state capacity to provide education, a public good, and ensure that every child has the opportunity to pursue formal education regardless of their socio-economic background. Furthermore, the government continues to allocate substantial financial resources to the educational sector. For instance, budget 2025 allocated more than 82 billion towards education development. This reflects the government recognition that education is not merely a social service, but a strategic investment in national development and human capital formation. Education has become one of the most powerful instruments for nation building, social mobility, and economic transformation in Malaysia. However, despite this achievement, several weaknesses continue to affect the effectiveness of the policy. One major weakness is the persistent educational disparity between urban and rural areas. Students in rural schools continue to face challenges related to infrastructure, quality, internet accessibility, and access to learning resources. At the same time, Malaysian performance in international assessments such as PISA 2022 has recorded a decline in mathematics, science, and reading. This raises important questions regarding to effectiveness of policy implementation and educational delivery mechanism. The issue is no longer whether Malaysia has sufficient educational policies, but whether those policies are being implemented effectively and equitably across all regions. So, moving on to opportunities. The rapid advancement of artificial intelligence, digitalization, and Industry 4.0 presents enormous opportunity for Malaysian educational system. Digital learning platforms, smart classroom, and AI-assisted learning can significantly enhance educational accessibility and quality. So, additionally, the expansion of TVET and industry collaboration provides opportunity to reduce graduate unemployment and strengthen the workforce readiness. If properly implemented, this initiative can help align outcomes with labor market demands. The classroom of the future is no longer limited by physical boundaries. It is increasingly shaped by technology, innovation, and global connectivity. Nevertheless, several threats continue to challenge the effectiveness of the national educational policy. Among the most significant threats is the widening digital divide. Students from B14 households and rural communities may not have equal access to digital devices and stable internet connections. As a result, technological advancement may unintentionally widen educational inequality. Another threat is the growing mismatch between educational outcomes and labor market expectations. If graduates continue to lack industrial relevant skills, the country's investment in education may not generate optimal economic returns. Without inclusive access and adaptive reforms, educational transformation risks becoming a privilege for some rather than a right for all. So, in conclusion, Malaysian national educational policy has achieved remarkable progress in expanding educational access and strengthening human capital development. However, challenges such as rural disparities, declining international performance, and digital inequality indicate that there is still significant room for improvement. Therefore, the future success of the policy will depend not only on financial investment, but also on effective governance, policy implementation, and the ability to adapt the global educational trends. Ultimately, the true success of an education policy is not measured by the size of its budget, but by its ability to transform knowledge into opportunity, opportunity into progress, and progress into national excellence. Thank you.
Assalamualaikum sir, I'm Nur Atifah Safa. I'm going to present my part. We have now reached the final part of our presentation on the Malaysian National Education Policy. To wrap everything up, this policy serves as a key framework that guides the overall development of education in Malaysia. It is ensure that our education ecosystem remains highly relevant to changing time, inclusive for all segments of society, and strictly focused on quality and national building. What set this policy apart? It is profound, focus on holistic student development. We are not just looking to produce academically brilliant students, rather we aim to nurture them intellectually, emotionally, spiritually, and physically. By doing so, the unlimited goal is to produce well-balanced individuals who possess strong moral value, leadership qualities, and sharp critical thinking skill. To ensure no one is left behind, the national education policy patiently promote equal access to education for all Malaysians, completely regardless of their background, socio-economic status, or location. Ladies, our diversity is our strength. Through a unified education system, this policy actively strengthens national unity. By fostering diversity, mutual understanding, and a spirit of cooperation right from the classroom. From an economic standpoint, the policy is a major driver in supporting the development of a skilled workforce. This is absolutely critical for our economy grow and maintain nation global competitiveness. Furthermore, it instills a culture of lifelong learning and continuous self-improvement, ensuring our society constantly adapt to a dynamic world. Overall, this policy shapes ethical, capable, and responsible citizen, securing a sustainable and prosperous nation development for the future. Thank you very much for attention. Thank you.